made it off the beach in time. They were shelling and bombing the beach after that. A lot of soldiers got so upset and so discouraged at the front line, they shoot themselves in the leg. You know, when he tells you, you're volunteers, you have to go, you know. So we did. We were on the edge of the boat when the bomb hit the tanker, and the blast of the bomb blew us right against the cabin. So I took the water can, which was our water supply. It was just like the Boy Scout can, the green can. As I walked to that farmhouse where the captain was, a sniper shot right through the can right next to me.
On April 3, 1943, George Ramsey left his peaceful life in Berlin, New Hampshire to fight one of the most devastating wars of our time. At the young age of 18, he was drafted into the war like millions of other American soldiers. He made his way down to Fort Devens, Massachusetts, where he was assigned to Camp Landon, Jacksonville, Florida, for basic training.
Well, basic training, we did a lot of hiking, you know. I was so fortunate that I hiked Cathedral Road so much that I was used to hike compared to the other guys in the southern part of the state that weren't used to hike, you know, to live in cities, you know. And we traveled, we used to practice with M1 rifles, and we did some shooting and target practice. And then we got into some trench where they had machine guns and bullets shoot overhead us, so that you could tell where, if you were being shot at, you know, because when the bullet hits close to you, it breaks the air and cracks just like somebody breaking dry branches, you know. Because that's what happened when I was at the front line, when the friendly shot at me, the company shot back at me. They thought I was a German. And they shot at me, there was sparks on the road all around me, and the bullet with cracks all around me, see? That's how close it was.
After several weeks of basic training, he was shipped to Little Rock, Arkansas for maneuvers. These military exercises were carried out to train soldiers for warlike conditions. Although George wasn't there long before he found out his next assignment.
I was only there 4 days. We did stop maneuvers. I had roll calls in the morning, and out of 180 men, they called 10 men out, and I was one of them. You've been assigned to foreign duty. Jeez. And at noon time, they told me, they says, Ramsey, you're gonna have a furlough, 7-day furlough. And there was about 5 AWOL already out of 10. So I didn't have any money. I went to the Red Cross, and the Red Cross contacted my sister in Berlin so she could transfer money down there so I could get money to get on the train. So I finally got on the train. It took me 3 days to come to Berlin. And I stayed in Berlin just 24 hours. And after 24 hours, I took the train back into Boston, Maine, here in Berlin, on the east side there, and shipped back to Little Rock, Arkansas. So once I got back to Arkansas, I got back at night over there, and there was a curfew on the camp. You couldn't get in after 8 o'clock. So I rented a room for $1, 3rd floor upstairs. I slept upstairs and I couldn't sleep much. The bed bugs was eating me alive. So I hurried up and I went back to the camp at 5 in the morning, and I told the guard at the gate what happened, and he says, "Go ahead, Mr. Ramsey." He says, "I'm not looking."
2 days later, George arrived at Chesapeake Bay, West Virginia, where he got on a boat to voyage across sea. After 28 days, an American V-17 plane appeared in the sky. The soldiers knew that land was close. The following day, they made their way through the Strait of Gibraltar and onto the Mediterranean Sea. This was where the Germans were waiting for them.
While we were in the Mediterranean Sea, the second day we were there, the German bombed us. I was outside on the deck of the boat with another guy, and they had trained us. So when we heard the alarm, air raid alarm, to stay out of the way so that the soldier, the Navy man can go to the gun position. So we did. We were on the edge of the boat when the bomb hit the tanker, and the blast of the bomb blew us right against the cabin. And we saw both ends of the ship go up in the air and down to the water. And then there was one of those, they called it Liberty ship. It was loaded with ammunition, and it was lit up like firecracker. The ammunition was blowing off, and we had British escort. They went and sucked the ship because the ship was giving our position away. So after that, we landed in Bizerte. I had my 19th birthday in Bizerte in North Africa. And once we were there, we got to the harbor, and it was about maybe 4 or 5 o'clock, and we couldn't unload fast enough. They pulled our ship and a few more ships. They pulled us out to the middle of the ocean, so we wouldn't be a target that night, you know. We couldn't unload fast enough. But at night, we were on the deck watching the harbor. The German bombed the harbor. It was 4th of July, you know. Blast, fire everywhere, and it was quite a mess. So the following day we unload, and we were stationed north of the harbor, and 2 days I was there, I had come down with malaria. I was in the hospital for 4 days.
After spending 8 days recovering in the hospital, George was sent to Naples, Italy, where he was placed in the American 34th Division. He spent the next 2 years fighting with Company F as part of the 135th Infantry Regiment. Throughout his time served in Italy, he was a communications officer, the company carpenter, and the French interpreter. The remaining footage consists of George talking about his war experiences. It also includes his friend Gilbert White, who we had a chance to interview in March of 2007. Both of these soldiers fought to defend our country, and their stories should not be forgotten.
When I first went to the front line, to the 34th Division, the soldier that, when I went to the 1st Platoon, Sergeant Singleton, he said, Ramsey, he says, forget your basic training. He says, we're going to tell you what to do. It's totally different. And I learned a lot. And I just made it up there, just getting dark a little bit. There was a little fog. Couldn't dig a hole, I had to make a slit trench. I made a slit trench with stone and ledge that I could pick up. And there was one man walking around. I couldn't find anything to get in the hole, protect himself. His name was Gilbert White. I said, soldier, you get in with me. We both sit sideways, laid sideways in the whole slit trench. The poor guy had diarrhea all night, you know, he was so sick.
I was out of work, looking for a job, and I got hired in the Southern Paper Company in Kalamazoo. They made, I worked in the specialty department there. We made these paper cans, gallon cans, small cans. We put tobacco in them and all kinds of food in them. I got a job in there. And working 3 to 11 most of the time. I worked there till spring. I took a night off and went to movie, back they fired me. And they wanted me to, well, the boss fired me there. He sent me over to the main office, and he wanted to hire me back. I said, no, I ain't gonna work for you people anymore. He said, maybe I'll wind up in the army. I said, well, maybe I will. Well, a few days later, I was in the army. He'd been up where I was. I dropped a hand grenade in his hole. I'm Gilbert H. White. I don't have a middle name. And they sent me over down before McClellan, sent me over to the administration buildings to get interviewed, and some little snot-nosed corporal, acting corporal, wanted to know my middle name. I told him H. I said, that ain't no middle name. What's your middle name? And he kept at me and kept at me. I'll tell you my middle name, you tell me yours. I said, H. Upon you. Got mad at him, and I said, I'll tell you what you do, Corporal. Make you feel any better, put down a horse shit. So he just put down H, initial only.
Christmas Day, I was sick. And we were on the secondary line. Secondary line is like almost like a rest area, you know. And this was on Christmas Day. I was so sick, you know. Geez, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't eat. And I'd go pee, and it was just like wine. I couldn't believe it. I says, I hated to go see the doctor because he probably think that I drink too much, you know. But no, I went over and I just couldn't stand it anymore. He said, you notice any change in your eyes? I said, no. Oh. He says, you know, he says, you're a sick man. So they sent me to the clearing station, what they call this clearing station. I went over there, and the doctor looked at me. He said, you know, he says, you got a bad case of malaria.
I thought it was hepatitis.
Jaundice and hepatitis.
Right, okay.
Got malaria, jaundice and hepatitis, thank you. And once we got there, a couple of days, I stood there for about 1 day or two. There's a nurse that came out. She says, you guys get ready, you're gonna go in the meat wagon. They called the ambulance the meat wagon. I says, where, what's the matter? I said, where we're going with the meat wagon? She says, you're going to the airport. I said, what? Excuse me. We went to the airport, we got on the plane, and I flew over Naples, Italy, where I saw Vesuvius erupted from the air, and that was the last time it erupted in 1945. And from there, I was in the hospital for 2 months. I was 28 days without getting up.
I laid down and come time to fall out again, I couldn't hardly stand up. And when he told the sergeant, I gotta go on sick call, I'm sick. And the guy in charge of the camp, Captain Greer or something like that, he had a reputation of being drunk. No, he wasn't. He had a reputation of being drunk half the time and meaner than hell. And I was going through the camp and, hey soldier, where you going? I said, I'm going on sick call. He said, come over here. Went over there, put your hand on my forehead. He said, my God, he said, you got a fever, go on sick call. Had a fever, 104. They sent me to the hospital. I was in the hospital a week. Fever broke and they sent me back to the Repel Depot. And I was there a short time, then they sent me to Italy. I was sick when I got to Italy.
And from there, I went to another place. We took a knoll, a hill, and we were cut off for 4 days on that hole, on that hill. And there was, where I was dug on the side of the hill, there was one of my buddies dig on the side of me and next to me in the hole. And the German, they made a bombing raid on us. We couldn't get out, we were cut off. There was German all around us. And there's a mortar shell hit right in the hole into him. It blew him out of there. The following day at daylight, during the night it was really hot, you know. I could smell the bad smell, you know. And the following night, just before dark, I looked outside. There was a shirt in the tree and one arm in there. I went outside and I shook the arm off the tree because I couldn't stand the smell of it. And the fourth day, they had the 442, was a Japanese niece, was attached to the 34th Division, made us a square division. They came to us with tanks and aft-track, they relieved us. So that was quite a thing there. 4 days cut off, you know.
The hill we were ordered to take, the Germans had went in there and it was forested, big forest there, big oak trees and beech trees. They went in there and cut most of the trees down, left them just where they fall. And we had to go through that mess. And they had, of course, minefield before they got in there, barbed wire. We tried 4 mornings, 3 mornings we tried to take it. And the guy that just slaughtered us. Then orders come down, going to take a night attack. So they lined us up after dark, and everybody had a lot of ammunition. I think a belt loaded, 2 bandoliers, and any extra you could carry. When they blew the whistle, everybody started firing. Went up through that damn mess. Climbing over those trees. My God, we took the hill. They killed Sergeant Snell there, first day, sniper killed him. One of the best ones I've ever known.
And when I came back out, there was a truckload of soldiers going by, and one of the guy was hauling at me, Joe, Joe, Joe. He jumped off the truck and he came up to me. I recognized him. It was my friend in Berlin here, Charlie Bijou. They were heading to Naples to take the boat to go to make the invasion of southern France. And they took the picture of that. I got that picture here. And 10 days after that, I got a news from his brother in Berlin, and news from Berlin that he got killed in southern France, Charlie Bijou.
We moved off that ridge and brought hot rations up to us. And meatloaf, swimming in grease, green beans, probably some kind of bread, I don't remember. Anyhow, we got orders to move that night. And going over this ridge, I forget who had to leave. Anyhow, I was about midway in the column, and Lieutenant North was just ahead of me. And Lieutenant Stevens, one of the guys that was scared shitless, he come up behind me. He said, "I'll follow behind you." So we're going down that ridge, and those damn beans started working. I relieved myself a big load of gas and took a few steps. The column stopped, and I heard this guy, Lieutenant Smith from Boston. He said, "I say, North, did you fart?" I caught him, I don't know, 3 or 4 times that night. And every time we stopped, he'd say, "I say, North, did you fart?"
Out in Italy, north of Italy. When we got to Bologna, we stopped and organized ourselves with British troops. And there's a guy, and while we were into the square, the Bologna, the square of the village there, I should say the village, the town of Bologna, there's an Italian come out of the house and he was yelling, you know, and he spoke to the captain. The captain says, I want to volunteer. You and you, he says, you go up the second stairs there. He says, there's something up there that you want to see. I went up there was 2 German officers there. And he had a German swastika on his arm. I took that and I took his Beretta.
Up on the ridge there, a couple guys hiding behind the bush, and the German come down the trail on the ridge. See, we was behind their lines, and they come down there with his head down because it was raining in his face, and they captured him. He was a German artillery observer. He had maps and everything, showed our position, where we'd been.
Oh.
Another German did the same thing. He was wounded in the leg. Couldn't walk. So the captain says, I want 4 volunteers to take that man to the aid station. So we put him on the stretcher. So we went out to the aid station. Before we get to the aid station, it was about 85, 90 degrees. It was really hot. We stop at the farmhouse to get a drink of water. We get in the house to get a drink of water. While we were in the house, we could hear screaming outside. We all rush outside, the 4 of us. There was this woman that took an axe and split that German's head right on the stretcher. The 4 of us left everything there and we took off. We got to the captain, we told him the story, what happened. He sent one interpreter and another guy to speak to that woman. They went there and they talked to her. Come to find out she had lost all of her family the week before. She was so upset when she saw that German, she split his head. And we didn't go back, we stayed at the line. But before we get to Milan there, we got on the way up, we went by a gas station where we saw Mussolini hanging and his girlfriend and his associate, you know. And then after that, once we got to Milan, there was a 34th Division waiting for us. There must have been around 4,000 or 5,000 soldiers waiting for us, and not the Milan in the field.
That was the German 34th.
German 34th Division
Yeah.
gave up to the American 34th Division.
Wow, okay.
And once we got there, it was quite a sight to see that, you know. And we were not enough soldiers to protect them. We load them up in those truck, what they call those 6x6 army truck there, standing position, because sitting down we didn't put enough of them in. They're all standing. And we allow one German with a gun to protect himself, because there were still some fascists in Italy at the end there, and they tried to shoot the American or the British, you know. And one place I got a close call. That's when, before we got into on the road to Milan there, we had secured this knoll here to secure the road, and I laid my line in. You see, before we used to have radio, and they give away the radio because the German picked up the signal. So we laid telephone wire.